Trump campaign senior advisor Boris Epshteyn joins us now. Thanks for joining us. So the Real Clear politics average moved in the right direction. He's still not leading anywhere. What do you do about that?
Well, that average is actually over 20-plus days. So that incorporates the time in early August when the polls were not so favorable. Now you're looking at the UPI, YouGov, Gravis polls. All polls were either up or tied. LA Times poll were up in the tracking poll as well. So the polls are definitely going in the right direction for this campaign.
Yeah.
And it's because the people are seeing the binary choice, Melissa, between Hillary Clinton, who's a lifelong failure and a liar, and Donald Trump, who's bringing real, fresh ideas.
Okay. They don't reflect the last few days, and that's where we saw this shift into a conversation about immigration and then, some really ugly stuff on race. How do you think that will shake out? Because a lot of people say the race debate doesn't turn out that well for Trump. It tends to, no matter what the message is or what the truth is, that's a conversation that benefits Democrats.
It's interesting about the race debate. This all started, the Democrats started slinging this mud at us when Donald Trump in our campaign began even a more concerted outreach to the African-American community, which is a good thing. And it's almost revolutionary for a Republican campaign to do so. And the Democrats, of course, are paranoid. They're scared. And that's why they're using these dirty tactics, like Tim Kaine yesterday, comparing the Trump campaign and the 14 million supporters in the primaries and millions more now to the KKK.
Who would you say that message is really aimed at? Because there are some people looking at the campaign that say if you combine that with the immigration, what this is really about is calming down fears of moderates who think Donald Trump is too out there, that it's not really about reaching out per se to the black community, because it's going to be very hard to get any solid votes there given where he is, that this is really about making people feel better about him as being more moderate in general.
Absolutely not. This campaign is reaching out to all communities. And as far as the African-American community goes, of course we're reaching out to him. Donald Trump will be going to Detroit, going to the inner cities, making speeches in front of African-Americans and speaking to African-Americans, just as he has been for this whole campaign, but specifically over the last several weeks, talking about the issues that matter. 26% of African Americans live in poverty in this country. That is unacceptable. That needs to be fixed. And whose fault is that? Barack Obama's and Hillary Clinton's. She cannot be allowed to be president.
So another criticism of this strategy is that it's focusing on a specific community when maybe at this point what it makes the most sense to do is go focus in swing states, that he should have more time on the ground in places that would make a difference. Why is he in the inner city talking about that when he could be down in Florida? He could be in other places where he needs to make up ground. What about that?
Well, he's in Iowa today. Campaigns are a busy time, and you could be in 3 states in one day. So that is absolutely part of the plan, part of the strategy. So Donald Trump is going all over this country, and he's speaking to all Americans because he's going to be the president for all Americans, not Hispanic Americans or African Americans, all Americans.
Do you think that this represents the way we're going to see the rest of the campaigns? Because for those of us who watch it very closely because it's our job and we're there every day, he is at rallies now, but he's reading off prompter, something he didn't do before, but he's doing it a lot more naturally. It doesn't, at first when he switched the prompter, there was a lot of criticism that it seemed stiff and that he was going to, maybe alienate some of the folks that liked his off-the-cuff banter. What do you think about where he is now, and will he keep it like this, do you think, for a while?
I think he's doing a great job, and it's a combination of using the teleprompter and his own personality. He's the most relatable candidate this country has seen since Ronald Reagan, and that's why he did so well in the primaries, beating 16 very qualified senators and governors. And that's why we're doing so well in the polls now, and that's why he will win on November 8th.
At the beginning of the week, the conversation was a lot about Hillary Clinton, the emails. The AP came out with that very hard story showing that more than half of the people that made it to her office and got to see her as Secretary of State had given money to the foundation. The Clintons were able to pivot away from that by the end of the week and turn the conversation to this race thing. Do you think it's important to get back to this idea of the foundation being corrupt?
Absolutely, 100%.
How do you do that?
And now there's evidence that the Clintons used BleachBit, that bleaching software which erases emails that I didn't even know about, and I'm an attorney, that's things I do know about. This software is so rare, so rarely used, that it's an obvious example of them being paranoid. And now there's evidence that they used it after this investigation began, which is obstruction of justice. And the American people need to know about it. We'll make sure that they're not being distracted by the Clinton smear machine, the Democrat left, from the key issue that the Democrat candidate for president obstructed justice. She lied to Congress. She perjured herself. And she's been hiding the truth from American people for decades.
And Julian Assange is out there as well. That's another chapter. Boris, thank you so much for joining us.